friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am playing with some cat scrappiness goodies, and I have 3 different projects to share with you today. I will be using the Dress Up Quokkas, the Thanksgiving add-on set, and one of these 2 die sets. And this is the reverse scallop mini slimline, and then I have the fancy scallop stitched rectangle frames. I also have the coordinating dies for the Quokkas and the Thanksgiving costume add-on set. So I start by cutting down 2 pieces of cardstock at 3 by 4 inches, and I'm stamping out my Quokka, and I decide to just show you that you can use any of the images in that costume set. There's more than just the dress up pieces for the Quokkas. There are lots of Thanksgiving and fall images that you can actually use to create scenes with. So I'm going to use the turkey on the second one. And I stamped the turkey to the left and the Quokka to the right, mostly because I wanted that Quokka's tail to be toward the center of the project. So these are going to be place cards, and I'm only making 2 because it's just me and my husband this Thanksgiving. No kids will be home, so I only need 2 place cards. And this is one of my favorite projects to do. I always make place cards. I love the die cutting technique that making these little cards uses. So I'm putting the coordinating die on each of these images, and I'm just pulling out my wire snips. I haven't used the turkey yet, so I need to separate it from the other dies, and I hold the dies down with a little piece of washi tape, and then I'm going to run it through my little tiny die cutting machine. So I put the paper on the bottom plate, and notice that I'm only using the top plate to cover the top half of that image, and I roll it forward till I can hear it click, and then I roll it back, and it's cut just the top of, you can see, just the top of that turkey has been cut. So I'm going to do the same thing with the Quokka, and I'll show you this one more time. So I put the paper with the die on it down on the bottom cutting plate, and I put the top cutting plate only on the top half of the image. I only want to cut out the top half of the image. And I just go back and forth just to make sure it's really cut out. And I didn't quite go down as far as I wanted, so I just put it back in place. Always make sure your die is straight, and popped it back into my little die cutting machine. And then I was able to, I wanted about half of that Quokka to stick up. So this is I don't know, this is a pretty fun technique. Now, if you're having a big gathering and there are lots of kids, this would be the point where you might want to set these aside, because you can let the kids pull out some colored pencils and let the kids color all these in. While you're busy getting ready or getting the meal ready, they can actually color everything in. So I am using my score buddy here to just score to the right and left of the Quokka, and then I crease it really well, and then that will stand up. So I'm going to do the same thing to the turkey, and I'm not doing any specific place. It just happens to be to the right and left of the edge where the die cut went to. So I'm just scoring where the uncut part meets the cut part. And for this one, I just snipped a tiny bit more because it wasn't quite even on each side with my paper snips. And you can see they stand up nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and color in these images. And this is a favorite little family thing. I had a little bit, I didn't quite get this guy's centered, so I'm just going to cut off the bottom of the back and get rid of that piece that's overhanging. Now, a really fun idea, by the way, is you can write messages on the inside. If you're having a big dinner with a lot of people who don't really know each other, a fun thing to do is to write discussion prompts or small talk prompts on the inside, because have everybody read theirs out loud and get discussions going. It's pretty fun. Or you can write an inspirational quote on the inside or something like that. So there you see I've colored them in, and I hand wrote the our names because my handwriting is okay, and you could use die cut letters or alphabet stamps or even sticker letters to do this. So, do whatever you think looks best. So I did go ahead and color in one of the little costumes from the Thanksgiving costumes add-on set, and I'm adding the little hat. Now, I should not have put any glue under those feathers because that's going to stick to the part of the card that I intend to bend toward the back. I felt like they needed a little something more, so I pulled out that Thanksgiving add-on set and grabbed the little leaves, and I'm just going to stamp those on the front all around the edge, and I'm going to leave them black and white. And I just kind of turn my stamp and try to just get the whole thing. And I'll just fold it in half so I don't do the back. Now you could fill the whole back of that with those leaves or any of the images on that card, because other people at the table will be able to see the back. So if you don't want just a plain white card, go ahead and fill in. And I'm using my journaling pen to fix a couple images I didn't stamp completely. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. You can go ahead and color these in or let the kids color in those leaves. I'm going to leave them black and white just because I kind of liked the graphic feel, and I do want it to be a pretty quick project, so I didn't really want to go ahead and stamp all of those. So I'm just filling in, and that completes that first project. You can add some pearls embellishments if you want to, or some shaker bits just to decorate the outside. So I'm pulling out this fancy stitch scallop rectangle set, and I'm using, if I count from the outside largest one, I'm using the frame number 4. I die cut them out of white cardstock, and then I punched a hole in the top of each one in the top center about-ish. And I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending because I don't want these to be white. So these are just gift tags. I like to put little gifts in everyone's spot. A little, just something fun. It could be, candy for after dinner or something like that. Or sometimes I do lottery tickets, and it's always fun. So I used scattered straw and honey. I forget the name of the honey one. It's the one with the name Wild Honey, I think it's called. And then I'm going to use tea dye. And I always expect that Wild Honey to be a little bit more orange. So I was expecting to have a little yellow, a little orange, and then this brown tea dye color. And I'm just blending them together. I sort of want a little bit of an ombre feel almost. And I'm just keeping this quick. These are quick projects that I can make because I love any excuse to sit down and craft. I'm going to spritz those with some water because I like to lift a little bit of that background ink. I just think it always makes the background more interesting. And I just dab it up with a clean towel and make sure I wipe off any excess ink from my craft mat. So the next thing I'm going to do, when I colored in my other images, I did a whole bunch of extra ones here. So I'm just going to kind of create 2 little scenes with the embellishments I have here, and just decorate the tags. And you could take the leaves and, you could die cut a few of those leaves and color them in and add them to your place cards if you wanted to. There's lots of fun things you can do. Just, enjoy the process and do what makes you happy. I'm just putting 1 piece of foam on the back of each of these. Some people save this stuff, some people don't. So, I'm not going to use a ton of foam. I just want it to be decorative and fun. And that is a perfect size for a tag, that frame. And why have I not used this size before? Because I've been too busy using the 3 larger sizes. I love the fancy scallop on the edge, and I love the stitch detail. And anytime you get 5 rectangle dies or circle dies or whatever in a set, that's a very useful set. You're going to be pulling that out all the time. So I'm just adding a little bit of grass. I'm doing just flicks of a couple different colors of green, and just so they look like they're sitting on the ground. Excuse me. And I think that's just YG67, and I just pulled out, I think this is G12, and I'm just putting some dots around there just to make it look like they're sitting on the ground. And the other two, I just wanted to decorate the corner. So I pulled out some twine from my stash, and I usually just use black twine or natural twine, so I have just a roll of that it's been in my stash for years. I'm never going to use this whole thing up. So I'll put a bow on each one of these and snip it off. And then when I'm ready to write my message on, to or from, or Happy Thanksgiving, because I'll write messages on these. Since it's just my husband and me, I'll have him write a message to me and encourage him to get me a little something to go with that. So I'll just snip this off, and then that'll complete the 2 tags, and you'll see those in just a minute. So I think these are super fun, quick projects, and just gives you a few more ideas. You can make napkin rings. I do that a lot. I just use paper and then put the, die cuts that I created and colored on top of them. Now here's the next thing. That's the fold of a card base, and I'm letting this scallop die part that's going to do the cutting hang off above the fold. So I'm going to die cut this out, but I've got the cutting part of the die is hanging out above the fold, and I'm just going to send this through my machine. Since I'm cutting through a double layer, I'm going to definitely go back and forth, and when I pull it out, you'll see I'm just putting it away. I always store my plates in there because that helps to keep them from warping, by the way. So I always roll it back in. So there you go. And you can see the stitch detail and the beautiful scallop. And now I've got a little card. So I'm going to take those same leaves that I've already used a couple times. I love little stamps like this because they make perfect backgrounds. So I used my embossing powder bag, and now I'm using my Versamark ink, and I'm just stamping these 2 little leaves all over the background. And I know you can't see this, but I can see this, and I'm just trying to cover everything. And I'll get a couple spots that I think are a little bare. And I'm going to add white embossing powder. And I have a giant tub of white embossing powder. Got a good clearance sale, so I put it in a big tub. Excuse me. And this works really well for me. I emboss a lot more with my white embossing powder now that I do that. That's actually the second time that I've, I emptied that out using it so much, and then I got a whole bunch of embossing powder and filled it. I didn't fill it, but it was about half full. So I'm using scattered straw again, and this time I'm using carved pumpkin because I really do want some orange here. I'm just ink blending over the leaves I just embossed because they will resist the ink. So this is an emboss resist technique. And I'm going to add some of that tea dye to the other end, and then I'll just blend back and forth between wherever the 2 colors are meeting until I get a blend that I really like. I just want a smooth blend, and again, it's almost an ombre feel. And now I'll just buff the leaves off with a dry towel to brighten them up and get the ink that's sitting on top off. And then I'm pulling out this big thanks die. I use my wire cutters to separate the 2 pieces of this die. I love when word dies come with that back die part. To me it feels like a cloud around the edge of it, and I love it. So I'm cutting the back piece of a very bright orange piece of scrap cardstock that I have in my stash, and I'll cut the thanks itself out of white. This might have looked nice in dark brown, because that would have been a nice contrast. I thought the white would be nice and crisp and clean looking. So I'm just adding some glue, some liquid glue to the back. This is art glitter glue. And I'm just adding that on. And those are reverse tweezers. I find them very useful for adding glue to the back of small skinny things. And I'll just glue the whole piece right onto the card. And again, add some embellishments if you want to, but I will make a few of these. I like having a few thank you note cards around during the holidays because you always need them. And 3 quick projects from the Dress Up Quokkas and the Thanksgiving add-on set. I hope you enjoyed those. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And give this video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the Scrappiness YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, click that bell so you get notifications every time someone uploads a video. Thank you so much for watching, friends.